Welcome back to the Weekly Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Owen, and today I'm going to be doing my part 2 of my Guys, Not My Guys series, covering the draft prospects and things like that I personally like and or don't like. And most of the time I try to make the My Guys section more of the players that I like, that not a lot of other people or places I follow up on are talking about or particularly are in favor of. Whereas in the Not My Guys are more popularly good how am I trying to say this? They're very highly viewed, and I don't view them as highly. That is why they're not my guys. I view them lower than what the consensus views them as. So the different, I'm going to be referencing these players, and I'm not going to go into too specific. Some of them I will, but a lot of the places just so you can get a reference of who I read, where I read them, and what I'm comparing to with my rankings compared to theirs. I'm a paid subscriber to the Draft Network. I'm a paid subscriber to the Draft Scout, which is Matt Miller's new thing. I follow Bleacher Report Scouting, which is, that's, ever since Matt has left that's been pretty atrocious. Their big board just came out, and I have quite a few problems with it. I might make a video where I just go through and make fun of it. But I have a list of prospects that were on their big board that I still have to get to because I'm not informed on all of their guys in the top 100. My top 100 is totally different because I just haven't scouted half the people they've scouted in their top 100. I'm working through it. But goddamn, the big names on there and the rankings and doggo, I might have to make that video after this one. Who knows? But for right now, I'm all over the place right now. It's 1:15 in the morning. Had a crazy weekend. So I said, Draft Network, I'm a paid subscriber to. Draft Scout, which is Matt Miller's company, is the one I follow. Walter Football, which does football rankings and kind of smaller descriptions on them, similar to another one that I follow, which is my own website that I work with on Keel Pro. It's not mine, it's Keel Pro's that I work with him, which is the Dynasty Index. So I'm referencing how Caleb has his rankings as well. And then there's one more I can't think of right now. I know some of Mel Kiper's. I'm not a paid subscriber to ESPN Plus, so I can't read all Mel Kiper's stuff. There's someone else I'm forgetting, and I'll probably run across it when I start thinking about it again. But those are the main ones: Draft Network, Draft Scout, Caleb, from my own website, and Walter Football are the ones I'm gonna be referencing a lot. But right now, I'm just gonna get into the My Guy section, which is going to be people I view higher than other people do. I did this on accident when I first made this listing for part 2. I didn't do it in part 1, but for part 2 I was making a listing, and I accidentally put them in the correct order when I first did it. Was based on who I like in the My Guys is based on how far off I am from consensus views. So the first one I'm going to talk about, I'm going to be like, this is my guy, I like him more than other people, but like he's still relatively well liked. Whereas number 6, I'm way higher on him than most people are that I've talked about previously. So the first guy I'm going to talk about is Kenneth Walker III, running back out of Michigan State. It might not be, I made this list a couple weeks back, so it might not be as big of a hot take to say that Kenneth Walker is nearing running back 1 right now. I think he's running back 3 on my list, but I have to go back and recheck up on Kyron Williams and then Kenneth Walker again. I'm going to have to watch the Michigan tape. But yeah, after this Michigan game, it's probably not even really worth having on this list, but I'm not going to edit it right now. I'm already in the recording. So Kenneth Walker, I'm just super impressed by. He transferred over to Michigan State, and everyone was like, he may be good, this and that, but then he blew up in the beginning of the season, and now he just had this phenomenal game against Michigan. They get Michigan State to number 6, I believe, which I really want to see Michigan State, or number 5. They're close to the playoffs, and I want to see them in it over Oklahoma really badly, but I need Oklahoma to lose a game for that to happen. But Michigan State has been pretty good this season, and Kenneth Walker is that catalyst for that whole offense to run. So he's more of my number 3 running back. I really think he's going to be fighting for running back 1 by the end of the draft process. I'm a big fan of Isaiah Spiller, but Kenneth Walker has been one of the guys that I've had my eyes on for like at least 4 or 5 weeks now. I can't take credit, and why I haven't ranked solo is I can't take credit for having discovered him. I was listening to the Draft Network's Draft Dudes podcast, and they talked about him a couple weeks back in their Two Truths and a Lie draft prospects version show, and they brought up Kenneth Walker as running back 1 or something like that. And I think it was The Lie but he's up there. He's pretty good. Or maybe it was Truth. I don't know. But they had him ranked pretty high, so I went and viewed him after that, and I was like, yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. So he's my first guy I'm going to talk about, my guys. For the second guy I'm going to talk about, this one, okay, so I'm going to do this on a future podcast episode, but Caleb and I on Draft Dynasty, the Dynasty Index, just put up a mock draft section where we both can post whatever mock drafts we want, whenever we want, change the order around, just basically play with it however we want to. And we both, to initiate in the new feature, we both posted our first mock drafts of the season on the website. Now, viewers of the show pretty recently know I had posted a mock draft on the YouTube channel and on the podcast previously before that. But this one was I made before this weekend's game, so I'm recording this on Sunday. It was about almost a week ago, a little less. And that I was going to plan on going through and breaking it down. But for those who pay to be on the Dynasty Index subscription, you also get let into the Dynasty Index Discord. And we posted to the Discord, like, oh, go check it out. And then we also added, like, oh, here are, just to get your interest up, here are where we have the quarterbacks ranked. And I got the most blowback on my quarterbacks because, for one, I hadn't gotten to Kenny Pickett yet, which I have now, and he definitely would have been in my first round if I had scouted him beforehand. But outside of that, I had my number 2, my guy here, Jake Haener, in the first round. And I got a lot of blowback for that because Caleb has him ranked as a round 3 prospect, and everyone was like, well, why is he in your first round? There's no way I'll eat my shoe if he's a first round pick, this and that. And I thought I was maybe, because I know there was a lot of buzz about him earlier in the season, but no one really talked about it anymore after that, and I scouted him, and I had a second-round grade on him as soon as I scouted him. And so I got into some discussions, and I promised to talk about it when I talked about that mock draft or when I talked about Jake Haener again. So I'm talking about him now. He's one of my guys. Like I said, he has a second-round grade for me. He's damn near close to a first-round grade. But I just think that he has all these traits, like the Spencer Rattler and stuff like that, people like that would have, like, oh, they have this great arm talent, but, you got some stuff to work with. He has off-platform talent. He has good arm talent. He makes some decent decisions and is pretty accurate with the ball. And what made me most impressed with him is that he only had 13 starts. What made me even more impressed was, in the middle of our discussion, Caleb posted in the Discord that it was his birthday. We were having this argument on his birthday, and he had turned 20. No, he turned 19. He turned 19 on October 27th, 2021. Which means he's a redshirt senior. His redshirt season at Washington, he was 15. His first pass thrown in a collegiate game when he was 16. And he was going up against teams like Oregon and who was the other one? I did his film on it. Let me pull up his profile here. But he was playing these high-profile games at Fresno State after transferring from Washington. He faced Oregon and UCLA at 18 years old. 18! And he was already showing good decision-making, good accuracy, great athleticism for functional athleticism. He's not going to be a game breaker or anything, but he can get out the pocket. And he was doing very well against these top-end schools, against dudes when he's 18. That's how old a freshman. I am a junior in college, and I just turned 20. He is a redshirt senior and just turned 19. And he's going to be he's on track to be the youngest drafted player in NFL history. He's going to be able to play 3 to 4 NFL regular season games before turning 20. And if he gets to a place like, I had him mocked to no spoilers because I want people to go get the Dynasty Index, but just because I'm probably going to have a new one out in a couple weeks, I had him mocked to the Saints. And if he could beat out Jameis or Taysom, or even get some playing time before week 4 or 5, he could be 19 and starting a game in the NFL at quarterback. And he has all these traits that are really, really good. And I was like, before I knew that fact, I was like, oh, he's really good for the inexperience. And by inexperience, I meant he only had 13 starts under his belt before he made these plays, or before he made the season. Or even, I think these included his 13 starts. Maybe he had less. So I was taking experience from that, and he showed really good poise, and he was a good leader out there, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. With so little starting experience, he's doing so well. And he was 18. So he's definitely one of my guys, and it's just insane to think that some people aren't as high on him as I am. Second round grade. Sorry, Caleb, I think you're wrong. I know you listen to these. He's so advanced for the level and age he's playing at and the amount of experience he has. that when he gets to the NFL, even if he doesn't play right away and he sits on the bench for a season, I think he has one of the better ceilings in this draft. And I might have put him at 3 now because, like I said, this list is a little older than how I recorded this. I planned on recording this like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So number 3 probably should be above Jake Haener. Jake Haener is probably more of a hot takey one than this one, but Charles Cross, offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Now I know that Matt Miller is in agreement with me on this one, and like I said, back when I first did him, not a lot of people were. I don't even think Matt was. Maybe he was, but I know a lot of other people weren't as high on him when I did his draft prospect evaluation. And I have him right now as offensive tackle number 3, 19th overall player on my or 18th overall player on my board. Sorry, with an 84.5 grade, which is 5.5 points off of a top 10 grade. He is just so fluent and technically sound in pass protection, which is not surprising coming from a Mike Leach offense. That like if you need someone to plug and play at left tackle and you want to throw the ball, and especially in this league where throwing the ball more is more frequent, you don't really have these Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens. They're kind of the outlier, but these teams that drop back and throw it 40, 50 times a game is way more frequent. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you're killing to have a Charles Cross on your team right now at left tackle and like Jonah Williams at guard, or like a team that needs just like a team that wants a shift, like maybe the Green Bay Packers or something like that, who wants to shift towards a younger quarterback or who wants to throw it more game or doesn't have the system in place to run the ball as well. You get Charles Cross, you have an instant impact pass blocker on your team. And he held up against some of the higher competition in the NCAA, and no one was talking about him at the beginning of the season. I was like, this is insane. Even like a couple games into the season, I was like, this guy is technically excellent. And even as he doesn't have as much power, but his footwork is so good that when he engages defenders when run blocking, even though he doesn't have the power in his upper body, the drive and the ability to keep his feet under his hips while he's driving somebody helps him gain that little more power than he would if he had a couple extra pounds of muscle on him. So he's definitely up there. I think he's going to battle Jackson Kirkland for offensive tackle 2 the rest of the season. I could foresee a future where he is offensive tackle 2. I'm not that high on Kirkland anymore. But Cross is someone I'm a lot higher on than a lot of other places were, especially when I first made this list. Number 4. Okay, so last time I did this, I hyped up my number 1 my guy, which was a linebacker from Indiana by the name of Cam Jones. He was a weak side linebacker prospect. He was and is still pretty good. I think I've fallen off the hype a little bit on him. Like I still have him graded as a second round player, but he's fallen off back a little bit. He's actually tied now with this guy who's his teammate and actually more of a middle linebacker prospect, Micah McFadden. Same grade. Just because I'm still proud of that little gem find I have with Cam Jones. I have him ranked 1 spot higher than him, but McFadden is this middle linebacker prospect who is like the just epitome of a leader on the defense. They talk about when he got kicked out of the Cincinnati game for targeting, that the defense just kind of fell apart without his leadership out there. And he's so talented and he's so bursty and so twitchy, especially against like the run and from the middle linebacker spot. And he can get depth on his pass sets. And he's so smart. But the problem is he hasn't really tested in the passing. Like he can get deep, but they don't ask him to do that often. It's usually Cam Jones who's really the one who's out there manning up against tight ends and running backs and running with them because he's kind of a better athlete. Whereas McFadden blitzes so much, and he's very effective at it. He's a lot more effective than Jones is at it, and he can get home as a pass rusher from the middle of your defense. So if you're looking for a player who can be that defense quarterback, a defensive leader, and play all 3 downs, even if it's like a more blitz-heavy role on 3rd down, you can get him in Micah McFadden, and he's definitely a top 100 player for me. The only person I really know who's arguing for him in the top 100, like adamantly, is probably Kyle Krabs from the Draft Network. I think Matt Miller might have had him up in this top, or Bleach Report, someone had him in the top 100, but I know Kyle Krabs talks about him a decent amount on the Draft Dudes podcast compared to a lot of other people. But yeah, Micah McFadden, I have a second round grade on him. He's good. You need to go check out those Indiana linebacker duos. They're really, really good. Probably the best in the country right now, in my opinion. I like both of them a lot. Number 5, so 5 of 6. I have 6 of my guys, only 5 of the not my guys, because I had to remove one, which we'll get into. And number 5 is Alec Pierce, wide receiver out of Cincinnati. Now, the guy I want to talk about, not my guys, that I removed, I think plays a similar style to Alec Pierce. And for a long time, I valued Alec Pierce higher than that said player. That has changed, and that's why he's not my guys anymore. But Alex Pierce is getting no buzz as like a top 3, like day 2 pick at wide receiver. He's not in anybody's top 100, and I don't understand why. He has this athletic profile where he's this big body dude, right? Where he is similarly to a lot of other like big body guys, where he'll win and perform well in these contested catch situations, and you can definitely throw the ball up to him at 50-50 balls, and he'll win them, which it happens a lot with how Desmond Ridder utilizes him, especially if like he's like, oh, I'm in a lot of pressure, I'm just going to chuck it up to Pierce. But not only is he great at those like contested catch situations, he is really good with his feet, and he's not like the most explosive athlete, but he can get good separation with his speed, with his long stride. He has above average route running, I would say, and he has a really good, great release. So he's good on the outside, whereas other guys who are big bodied that maybe struggle with release off the line of scrimmage might get forced into a big slot role. Pierce can still play on the outside. He's your typical X, have that little oomph with your athletic upside with explosiveness and stuff like that, while also still bringing that catch radius that you look for in a guy who's 6'3". So I just think he's an all-around great X receiver kind of guy. Maybe he's stuck in the X receiver role because he isn't that dynamic, side to side. He's more of a straight line speed kind of dude, and his rack ability, it leaves some to be desired. But I think he is a really good player and is a borderline second-round pick for me. So someone I don't hear a lot of buzz from. I haven't actually seen him on anybody's list, really, as a top however many receivers. So, and finally, my number 1, my guy, well, number 6 on this list, but my number 1, my guy, the guy I think is being slept on the most on this entire list, is someone that has been talked about. I'll give it to Walter Football. They have a first and second round grade on him, but I don't know how recent of an update that is. Usually they do a gigantic update at the end of the thing where they really move their rankings around. They'll give many updates throughout the season, like, oh, he played well in the start, but they don't really move the guys around until the end of the season because there's just so many people they cover. And the draft dudes talked about him for about all of 10 seconds when LSU played Florida. But my specialty in the Dynasty Index, because I enjoy scouting linemen, and I played lineman in high school for the most part. I switched to linebacker more in my varsity years, and now I'm coaching modified linemen. I enjoy focusing on linemen, and I don't know if it's just because people don't like focusing on them or they find it boring, or it's just because I can, maybe with my limited knowledge, like I'm not this, NFL scout like the Bleacher Report has and stuff like that, but like this guy, Ed Ingram, guard out of LSU, is just, he's not going to blow you away. He's not like Quentin Nelson, where he's got this size, speed, nastiness, where he's going to blow you up and move you out of the way. And he's not Elijah Vera Tucker, where he can just clamp you. He doesn't have a single category for me that is a 10 out of 10. But the amount of 8s, 8.5s, and 9s that are on his grade report, which you can see at the Dynasty Index, he's just such an all-around guard prospect, where like I have him as like an early second-round pick, and I have him in my first-round mock draft, the one that just came out, where if you need an instant starter, a plug-and-play starter at guard for this in the next upcoming season, and you don't want to spend money on a big guy like Joe Tooney like this past offseason, or you don't really necessarily have a guy who's entrenched as a starter, but you'd look like an upgrade, you can draft Ed Ingram, and he'll come in and be an instant starter for you. I don't know if he'll be a Pro Bowler, but he will be a borderline Pro Bowl starter for his entire career from day one. He'll come in, step in, and he will be an instant. If you have a liability at guard, you will no longer have a liability there. You'll either have, you'll be like, oh, he's doing good, he's doing fine, or you're like, wow, he's really stepped it up, because he has maybe even some room to grow that I can't even envision right now. I can see him adding weight onto his frame. He's only 320 at guard. I could see him adding weight on with a proper NFL weight staff and getting his power up, and then all of a sudden, here's this guy who can pass block, run block, and has all the techniques down, and then also being able to get some power in his game so that he can blow people off. Like right now, he can do the power run game stuff, and his power is lacking as everybody, and his footwork doesn't really make up for it like how Charles Cross does, but he can do the zone reads. He can get up to the second level. He can pass block. He can pass off blitzing. He can pass off stunts. He's very intelligent. He has all the hand technique and pass blocking foot technique you'd like in a guard. I don't get why outside of Walter football, no one else is talking about him as like a second to borderline first round player, and I am all on board with Ed Ingram. But before I get to my not my guys, because that was the last one of my guys, I will play this ad. We are, of course, sponsored by the Dynasty Index. I've been talking about it a lot, referencing it a lot, because I worked long and hard on this. I spent like 6 hours yesterday doing like, I think 5 or 6 players, including like, and then the night before including this. So I did like 10 players over this past weekend, and I worked so hard. Caleb worked so hard while also cutting up this stuff. So I'm going to run the ad real quick, and we'll be back on the other side to do my not my guys. Attention all Weekly Huddle followers, I have a huge announcement. I have joined up with Caleb from KillPro88 on YouTube to help work on a draft and dynasty football database. It is called the Dynasty Index and contains detailed content revolving around both dynasty fantasy football and NFL draft coverage. On this new platform, you will find dynasty player rankings, NFL draft prospect rankings, detailed player scouting reports, and much more. I am so happy to be working on this project with Caleb and the rest of our contributors, and we've already gotten so much information and exclusive content on the site ready for you to dive into. I personally have been putting a ton of effort into this, and I'm recommending you check it out. The subscription prices are $3 a month or $20 a year, and if you ask me, you get way more on the site than what you're paying for, so it's a definite steal. If you are interested, contact Caleb on Twitter at KillPro88 or email him at calebschmidt7@gmail.com. Once you get your subscription, you'll have full access to the Notion server, and will even be able to have access to it through the Notion app on your phone. So don't wait, subscribe now, and get access to one of the best draft databases and dynasty ranking sites. Alright, great ad, me. You're welcome, me. Now, check it out. Love it. Put so much hard work into it. It's what I think is one of the better draft coverages, you'll get my personal beliefs, and like I said, dynasty stuff, draft stuff, mock drafts, future free agency information. We're going to be getting someone in who does analytical stuff for every single player. Caleb's going to be doing backgrounds and other stuff that we're going to have that's like a mixture of like different sides of draft coverage, which is the analytical, the backgrounds, and like the personal judgment calls and future stuff and things like that. It's gonna be so great, and I really want you guys on the ride there to help us along with it. So if you want to just give it a try, do the $3 1-month subscription, check it out, see if you like it, especially if it's around like draft time, to go in, pop $3 in there just for April, and then give it a check out so you can follow the draft along with what we're doing. But if you like it, maybe offer up the $20 or re-up on the $3 and just stick along with us. So anyway, on to my guys. For the first guy I have, like I said, this is less of a hot takey one because I understand he's very good at what he does. But I think a lot of people are ignoring the largest flaw in his game, which is a pretty big freaking flaw. Now, granted, I'm talking about Kaiir Elam, cornerback out of Florida. And let me just see where I have him ranked in my cornerback rankings. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's my 5th cornerback. Now, that might sound terrible. He's still a first-round player. And he's behind Derek Stingley, Trent McDuffie, Andrew Booth, and Ahmad Garner. Guys who are the top 3 I just mentioned or the top 2 are top 10 picks. Andrew Booth is nearing that, and then Ahmad Garner is like in the same area as Kaiir Elam. So he's really, really good, and he's played really well. My biggest thing is that when he's in zone coverage, he's more of a, I'd say with his physical profile, he's long, he's lean, he's very athletic. He's a man coverage corner, or maybe like a deep cover 3, like Seattle Dan Quinn kind of corner, where he can back up and see the whole field. If you ask him to be a cover 2 or a cover 4 or something like that, or play like a hook curl zone, and he has to keep his head on a swivel and look around and not get sucked up by the underneath route because they're trying to throw behind him, that's not his game. He, especially in 2020, he's blew a lot of those coverages. He allowed big plays behind him because he got sucked up, or they attacked him with their route combinations there. So he just needs to do better on his zone coverages, and I think he'd be able to get up to like cornerback 3 above Booth and above Garner and things like that. So nothing real crazy about that one. I just know that Kaiir Elam were like, oh, cornerback 2 behind Derek Stingley, cornerback 1 above Derek Stingley because Derek Stingley hasn't been healthy enough. It's like, no, let me get his own coverage, Maybe I have to dive back into him again just to reaffirm this, but I'm not confident with how his zone coverage play has been up to this point in his career. All right, getting more hot takey now, and I have been on this as a not my guy since before the NCAA season started. Matt Miller had him as his number one edge prospect, or no, like number 2 behind Thibodeau, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? Went and checked him out. And in Miller's defense, he was like, oh, it's more of a projection. But he's still in his top 100. And now the Draft Network has them in their top 32. And the Bleacher Report has them in the top 100. When I get through, and I have the full 300, 400 prospects, whatever, in my big board, because that's my hope and goal for this year. I already have like 100-something. This guy is going to be nowhere near my top 100. Zach Harrison, edge at Ohio State. I had him as an undrafted free agent grade for the longest time. Went back, did another eval on him with some of the games that have been played this season so far. And he moved up to, I think, like a 6th or 7th rounder. Let me double check. 6th rounder. He's a 6th rounder on my board. It's all physical projection. Like he's got the size, 6'6", 272. He has some athleticism. I mean, not the agility side-to-side stuff, but he has the burst, and he has the length, and he has the size, and he has the pedigree in Ohio State and a 5-star prospect. But and I can see why people would want to take him and become the mold of clay. And he's decent at run defending, but he just doesn't bring that motor or the pass rushing. And I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. And maybe people are valuing that he has all these he's really traitsy. But there's a lot of other players in this draft class, like a Kingsley Egnagbear or an Ali Gay, or I'm trying to think of someone else off the top of my head. And Adam Anderson. I'm not even a big fan of him. He was not my guys the last time. But these guys are traitsy and toolsy, but still are more further along than Zach Harrison. Have actually shown something at the college level other than just being raw potential. Harrison needs to show me something before he can get out of the 6th, 7th round undrafted free agent conversation, because if you're just telling me, oh, he's got traits, so what? Produce something in college, or you're not going to be able to produce in the NFL level, especially with how poorly you've been producing in college. I'm just saying that I am so tired of seeing people talk about him and mock him in the first round. It drives me insane. But anyway, this is the one I want to talk about, and I debated making a whole video. I have a whole audio clip recording of it. I did it 3 a.m. one night, and I was like, I don't like how this came out, and I'm debating going back and re-recording it. But this is the most interesting talking point of this entire podcast right here, in my opinion. Jordan Davis, defense tackle out of Georgia. A lot of people have him in the first round. I have him in my first round mock draft. He's a 3rd round prospect in my grade book. And this raises a question. Well, how is he in your first round mock if you have a 3rd round grade on him? Again, Jake Haener, there's quarterbacks, I know, but D tackles, you don't really force them into your first rounds. And what I talked about in that video, which may or may not still go out after this, is the problem with making grades and putting grades on players and determining where they are on your board based on that is, especially for me, I try to set equal values for 8 of my traits. And then I'll take one trait that I feel like is the most impactful for a prospect out of the ones I pick, and then one that's most impactful. I make 1 out of 11, 1 out of 9. But regardless of that, what I see on film and how the grades I put into the system only give Jordan Davis a 3rd round grade, despite the insane amount of game wrecking he does. He is this gigantic, big-bodied dude with explosiveness that you do not see in a player his size. He has 10 out of 10s in a lot of my categories, but he has 3 out of 10s and 4 out of 10s and other things. Because despite him being large and explosive and just an instant run wrecker, if you draft him, your run defense goes up significantly, especially in the middle. I love him as a fit for the LA Chargers. Chargers always had a problem up the middle, defensive tackle-wise. They haven't found that defensive tackle that they really need, and they also have a problem stopping the run up the middle. Jordan Davis, perfect fit. Boom, slap it right into the mock draft. That is beautiful player to need kind of matching there. But the reason it's a 3rd round pick for me in my grades in a first round mock of my mock is because everything else with pass rushing and everything else is so underdeveloped. He doesn't use his hands well, and it's just, I wouldn't trust him as a pass rusher. So he's so bad there, but he's so destructive and impactful as a run defender. Like, if I could give him a 20 out of 10 in run defense and explosiveness and things like that, and his core strength, his hand power, I would. But I can't. I'm limited to giving him 10 or 11 out of 10, or 11 out of 11, 10 out of 10 or 11 out of 11. which means I can't, even though my eyes tell me he's a game wrecker, should be a first-round pick, the grades are telling me he's a third-round prospect. So I'm going to continue drafting him in the first rounds in my mock drafts, and it's like he's just like that outlier. Everyone else, I'm very confident with where I put them in my grades and how I have them graded compared to where I want them drafted. Jordan Davis, the only reason why he's in my knock on my guys is because I have him graded as a third-round player, even though I want to get my first-round grade. I don't know what everyone else is seeing that they could, by putting numbers into a spreadsheet like I do with grades, have it shoot out a first-round grade, have him in their top 16, like top 20 players. Like visually, yes, with how he wrecks a game from what he does well, yes, he's a top 20 player. But as an all-around player, his lows match his highs when it comes to pure statistical data input. I can't break the max of his highs to outbalance out the lows to make him a round one prospect, if you get what I'm saying. Long existential grade rant over. Number 4, my second most hot takey, not my guy, is Breece Hall, running back out of Iowa State specifically. And I first saw this when Caleb did his rankings, and he had Isaiah Spiller as his running back 2. And he had Breece Hall as running back 1 for a long time. Now, I have convinced him to come around to Isaiah Spiller as running back 1. I don't have the final say in those rankings for the running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers, so that's all him, but he does consult me on them. However, he still has Breece Hall at running back 2 with a round 1 grade. Caleb, if you're listening, I don't agree. Okay, so let's profile him, right? He's 6'1", 215, and so he's a bigger body guy, but he doesn't run with the power of a big body dude. He runs too upright. He looks to bounce the ball outside and doesn't want to run between the tackles at all. Whereas like a Zach Charbonnet is not afraid of contact. He will run in between tackles and run through people and get those hard-earned yards. Whereas if Breece Hall gets a handoff or an inside zone, he will bounce it outside or try to take the least clogged path or whatever. He won't hit the hole that he's supposed to hit. He's going to look for the best option, which he is decently well doing. He has some decent vision. He has really good wiggle. He has a great elusiveness, especially for his size. It's kind of rare for how well he is elusive-wise for his size, 6'1", 215, like I said. But that can outbalance his lack of power when he runs, his lack of pass blocking, which I don't value all that highly, but he's not good at it at all, and his receiving game leaves some to be desired. So he does one thing really well, elusiveness and breaking runs off of that. But if he doesn't take his hole and just hit it and try to take the 4 yards instead of try to look for a home run hit every single play, especially with how he's built, I don't think at the NFL he will be all that successful the way he can get away with it at Iowa State. That's my Breece Hall rant. I spent a lot of time on Zach Harrison and Jordan Davis. I didn't want to take a lot of time on him. And for our final player, before I get to him, the guy I took off this list, who was originally number 6, so the number 1 hot take, was Drake London, who we just found out is going to be out for the season due to an injury, which is very unfortunate. And I had him comped, like I said, I had Alec Pierce rated higher than him, and I thought Alec Pierce did what Drake London did, but better. He could actually play on the outside. But going back, and I think it was the USC Notre Dame game, I was watching it on my break at work because I had money on it. I had Notre Dame +8. And the way Drake London played, I know there's a lot of Mike Evans comps, and they're very well. And my biggest issue with Drake London was that he didn't have a good enough release to play on the outside, and he struggles to get separation. And I still have those issues. But if you are like a team like USC, and honestly, probably someone who can scheme better than the guys at USC right now, especially with no head coach, you can scheme that guy open. His rack ability is rare for someone his size, and he is a 75-25 disadvantage for cornerbacks at jump balls. Even though he can't make separation and he has to hang his hat on his jump balls, he is oddly successful with them. I always had the same hangups with him that I had with. I'm worried. I'm worried about getting into a relationship with a jump ball specialist because I was head over heels for the wide receiver out of Iowa State. Why am I forgetting his name? Oh my God, he was a tight end. He's not really doing anything right now. Oh my God, my brain is melting. I know him every other time. Oh, crap. Hakeem Butler. That's who it was. I was head over heels for Hakeem Butler, and I wanted the Bills to draft him so badly in the first round. And Drake London gave me Hakeem Butler vibes, where he can't separate. He does all these things good. Rack ability, jump ball stuff, and even though Hakeem Butler played a lot on the outside, their releases weren't all that great. But they relied on making plays despite their lack of separation skills, and that's what I was hung up a lot, because I value separation as a wide receiver super highly. But his route running, he can gain separation with route running, unlike Hakeem Butler could. He had to just outmuscle guys. Drake London has some good route running and can gain separation with that. And he wins those jump ball situations, has really good rack ability, and has good hands. And I can't fault him for that. So I had him originally as like a third-round player, bordering on fourth, and now I have him up to second, bordering on first. He's very close to a first-round draft grade on me. And it's probably going to be the grade he has until the draft, because he's hurt for the rest of the season. Maybe he comes out the combine, shows out some speed stuff, like he loses some weight or something like that. But right now, he is a 1-2, leaning more towards a 2. And I'm happy with where he is, and I've come up on him. Unlike how other people have him at like wide receiver 1. When I first saw Matt Miller have him at wide receiver 1, I almost lost my mind, because I had him as like a 3-4. But no, yeah, I can see the appeal now. So my eyes have been open. Unlike with this next player, and my last, not my guy, of this podcast episode. And I wanted to like him. I've given him so many chances. I've wanted to like him so badly. But Alec Lidstrom, center out of Boston College. Another lineman you might want to click off now, because linemen are boring to talk about, or boring to listen to if you're not obsessed with them like I am. But Alec Lidstrom, brother of, what's his name? The guard for Atlanta. I forget what his name was. He also went to Boston College. Their father and grandfather played football in the NFL, or I think it's just his father or his uncle or something. I know his father did. His brother plays in it. And so he's like this legacy guy, and he's getting a lot of rub for being related to them. And I was like, oh, so he's going to be this like sleeper center. He's like in the top 100 for the Draft Network. And he's mentioned other places too, but I'm like, okay, so I'm going to go check him out. Alec Lidstrom is currently the second lowest player I have graded, behind Jason Hines, guard out LSU. Which, if you ever want to see dueling, like a bipolar scouting experience, scout Ed Ingram and then scout Chasen Hansen in those same exact games, back to back. You can literally just like LSU versus Mississippi State, watch it one time through watching Ed Ingram, rewind the whole video, rewatch it with Chasen Hines. It's like night and day. But only 1 point higher than him, in the undrafted free agent, probably priority undrafted free agent range, Alec Lidstrom. He doesn't sniff a draftable grade for me. Like, he's a couple points out of around 7 grade. And he's just not functionally strong. He's got the intelligence, like I'll give him that. He knows football, which is kind of a given based on what his heritage is and everything like that. He knows football, and he's got decent technique, and he can move. He's got some mobility, but he's only 298, so you should be mobile. And unlike a player like Tyler Linderbaum, who might be on my guys next time because I have him way higher, he doesn't move. He's not like, it doesn't like pop out on the screen like, oh my god, this guy moves so much better and so much more different than everyone else on the screen. He's a good mover, relatively. He's not like like Tyler Linderbaum. If he was put on the NFL right now, it's one of the best moving linemen out there. Alec Lindstrom would be just another guy, movement-wise, and that's probably his best trait. He's not versatile. His snaps have been terrible. He's had a lot of plays where he gets his quarterback killed or he fucks up the snap. Like Clemson. What was the other one? Maybe I can't remember what the other one was. But even with Djokovic or the backup quarterback, there's not a good timing repertoire with his quarterback on the snaps. He might be able to kick out the guard and where he doesn't have to worry about that. His anchor, he gets blown up on one-on-ones. He gets pushed into his own quarterback's lap on multiple occasions. He doesn't get any power off the line of scrimmage. His get-off, as a lighter dude, you need to be able to get up and out of your stance and get into people. He doesn't. He requires a second dude to come and help him double block a single guy to move him. Like, he can reach him, but he's not going to be able to move him. The guy's going to blow it up. I can't see in his game anything other than a camp body that you bring in and keep as like your third or backup center, that if he comes in, you're in probably decent trouble. Like Evan Boehm, good, maybe a comparison. I don't know. I don't see it. Top 100, no way. Draftable, maybe you could convince me, but there's just nothing in his traits that make me want to draft him anywhere in this draft. I will be on the phone with him, like, hey, we just took our last pick of the draft. We want to sign you. Come in, if you can show you're versatile enough to play at multiple different positions on the offensive line and maybe put some weight on in the weight room, you can stick. But I'm not burning a top 100 selection on Alec Lindstrom. I'm sorry, Alec. You're probably an awesome guy. You got a lot of money in your family, so I'm not really, you don't really need this financially. So, if this is happy, it makes you happy, do keep doing it. But I wouldn't draft you. I'm sorry. And that's the podcast. I'm gonna keep working on this. I'm probably gonna have a part 3 coming out because I'm always constantly doing players. I already have a list going for my part 3, honestly, so it's definitely coming out because I've just gotten to a couple different guys this past weekend alone that I think could make either list. So give me your opinions and thoughts on the players I talked about. Go check out the Dynasty Index. Give us that, try out the $3 1 month thing. What is $3? I bought a monster for $3 today. You're giving up one of your monsters to check out some of the best draft and dynasty content that's out there on the internet right now. So give Caleb KeelPro88 a subscription, a follow. Go check him out on Twitter. If you want to contact him, get him on Twitter. There's the email and the ad. But still just trying to forge our way through this, doing this stuff at 2 a.m. in between work and school and the rest of our lives. So we're putting hard work into it, and we want to make this into our livelihood. So just try to support us any way you can. So I'll check you guys later.